Hey there, listener, and welcome back to another week of That's Debatable. I hope you are doing great. I hope you've had a great start or half of your April. Can't believe we're that far into the year now. I hope everyone is staying healthy and doing well and just kind of getting ready to get back to normal. I myself am getting my first shot of my vaccine on Friday. Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous about it. Am ready to get back to normal though, so doing my part in getting on that train. So, all that to be said, we are going to revisit something today that I talked about on the first episode of That's Debatable, which was cancel culture. And I do not want to talk about cancel culture again. I want to talk about how we got to a culture that cancels one another. So the epitome of cancel culture, just before we get into anything, is kind of this idea that if you don't do exactly what I say or what I want you to do, then I or this group of people is going to cancel you, because a canceling requires that one side has the power or the mob behind them to actually enact the canceling, because if it weren't, it would just be an empty threat. Of course, as the left objectively has control of much of the culture, the institutions today, they tend to be the ones that are able to do the canceling, because conservatives simply do not wield that kind of power now, either in Congress, in the presidency, or even in the cultural sphere. So the conservatives are up against a losing battle. So much of the canceling, for lack of a better term, that comes in today's culture comes courtesy of the left asking or requiring that businesses or corporations or anyone get involved in the political sphere. I want to talk about one thing before I get into my complete topic for the day. I want to talk about something that's interesting about this phenomenon. So back in when there was a massive push for the equal rights for same-sex marriage, and in kind of the beginning of the pro-choice movement, some of the biggest arguments that you would see come up from those that would consider themselves more liberal or progressive is that the government should stay out of things. The government should stay out of your bedroom. They shouldn't care who you're sleeping with, what you're doing what with, and they should stay out of your doctor's office. A decision that happens with regards to a choice is not about what the government says. It's not about life. It is about a decision between a woman and her doctor. Obviously, this is not how both sides of the aisle view the issue, but that is something that was very common for progressives to say, was that it is an issue that the government should stay out of the bedroom, the government should stay out of the doctor's office, the government should just stay out. Men and women who gather together on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. should have no right to tell someone in another part of the country how they can or cannot live their life. This is kind of what the country was founded on, in a sense, that we all kind of believe this issue, and the left used to use that to their advantage to say they shouldn't have a say in what goes on in a person's bedroom, or they shouldn't have a say in what goes on in a doctor's office. This has shifted. It's a broader outgrowth. That position used to be a broader outgrowth of the concept that the personal and the political are two separate things. There are things that you do, such as what birth control you're using, who you're sleeping with, and how many guns you want to own, that the government has no right to judge. There are other things, such as what you can and cannot yell in a crowded theater, or what you must or cannot wear in public, that affect the general public. Those are called the political things, as opposed to the other things, which are the personal things. Until the recent past, both the left and the right, for their very respective reasons, used to agree that these two cultures or these two aspects of life should not collide. The personal should stay personal, and anything political should stay political. This is changing, and it is changing extremely rapidly. This is mostly changing because of what the left desires for companies. Before patroning any business, the left requires to know what that business agrees with, what political positions that business supports, and what they want. This is exactly what happened when last month the MLB decided to move its All-Star game and draft out of the state of Georgia because it passed a new voting law. So within the last month, the Georgia's reportedly going to lose roughly $100 million in revenue because the MLB decided to remove its All-Star game and its draft out of the state after they passed a controversial voting law, to say the least. Without getting into the specifics of the law, the commissioner, Rob Manfred, shared in a statement that the move was, quote, the best way to demonstrate our values as a sport. So without getting into the nitty-gritty of the law, without focusing on what the law actually had to say, what's important to know is that the MLB decided that it was no longer going to support small businesses or communities in Georgia because of something that the Georgia legislature and governor decided to pass with regard to voting laws. Regardless of whether or not you think those laws made things stronger, made them weaker, are correct, or incorrect, the MLB, the Major League Baseball, decided that they were going to remove their business from a state based on a law passed by elected officials. This move was applauded by tons of people. Former President Barack Obama came out and spoke on it. The sitting president, Joe Biden, actually applauded the move afterwards and encouraged them to do it before. Stacey Abrams encouraged it. Senator Ralph Warnock supported it. Plenty of people on the left were very supportive of the move in the first place and were supportive of the move after it actually happened. So that is one of the biggest things to have happened in response to a political leaning for a company in a while. So that was the one thing that happened. Other companies such as Delta and Coca-Cola have both also released statements on what they believe of the highly critiqued law. In response to the law, in response to the Georgia law, actor Will Smith actually pulled the plug from one of his latest movies that was supposed to film there and removed it because he said that he didn't agree with the law. So Georgia is seeing an extraordinarily loss of revenue because of a law that was put in place by elected officials of the state of Georgia that some companies just do not agree with. This is not the first and not the last time this has happened. Just in the last few years, there were articles saying that we should cancel Beethoven for what he believed, and Republican leaders in the White House tried to cancel tires because of a reported MAGA ban that happened because they wouldn't allow people to wear MAGA hats. This is all just a broad outgrowth of what is happening in society right now. Just this morning, Ben & Jerry's put out a tweet that read this way. Quote, the murder of hashtag Dante Wright is rooted in white supremacy and results from the intentional criminalization of Black and brown communities. This system can't be reformed. It must be dismantled and a real system of public safety rebuilt from the ground up. Hashtag defund the police. This is one of this is what the left wants. Without giving my opinion on that statement, this is the kind of society that the left wants to create. They would like for businesses to take political stances on things. They would like for businesses to be a part of all parts of the cultural dialogue. This is getting to the heart of the issue. What conservatives think of this issue. Now, first of all, this is creating companies on both sides of the aisle. So there are famous companies such as Black Rifle Coffee that advertise with places like entertainer Steven Crowder uses their advertisement, and they support the Second Amendment and the military, and so that is something that is inherently getting involved in politics, even though they're just a coffee company. However, conservatives are the ones that tend to patron them, and that's just kind of where that is moving. So these are just really a few examples of the chain reaction that is occurring today. Every day, another company is forced to put some political slogan, some political pandering, some form of political appeasement out so that they are not the next ones on the chopping block. And this is exactly where I wanted to talk about cancel culture, because this is the first step of cancel culture, is forcing people to be involved in things that they don't want to be with. Why should Coca-Cola care about politics more than they care about the sugar in their latest drink or what Santa looks like on their Christmas-themed Coke can? They shouldn't be. That's the bottom line, is that Coca-Cola should focus on what Coca-Cola consumers are concerned about, because every single time a company takes the side of a political issue, they are automatically ostracizing half of the nation that believes something else. And that is not the point of business. The point of business is to reach the widest number of people as possible. That is what every marketing or advertising executive will tell you anywhere, is you want to reach the most amount of people, or you want to reach the widest demographic. There's no reason you would want to cut down on your business. So the question is, where does this leave a nation that is already tearing at the seams because of political differences? And what happens when silence is deemed violence and it's not enough to just be passive? Well, people are beginning to fight back. The half of the country that did support the Georgia law will try to start their own MLB. Though it's likely to go nowhere, there have already been calls to remove the MLB antitrust exemption to provide room for a new baseball league in the market space. Senators Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley are actually attempting to bring that bill up in the Senate right now. Furthermore, we have companies such as Black Rifle Coffee or MyPillow that are outwardly expressing their points of view, and that will be patroned by one half of the company while being ignored by the other half. So, where is the next step? It's really only the next step that this stops. It's imperative that America immediately stop demanding that companies accept and promote political positions instead of providing the best services as possible. Americans need to stop caring what Coke and what MyPillow and what Delta and what every business thinks about every political issues. We have a political sphere and we have a personal sphere, and there is just no reason that businesses should be getting involved in these conversations. It's important to understand, obviously, as I mentioned in the beginning, that the argument was that government should stay out of the personal business of people. And I understand that private businesses are different than the government, but the point is that it's not that the government and the personal should stay separate. It's that the personal and businesses should be staying out of the critiquing. It's not the right word. They should stay out of the conversation. Not people specifically, but businesses should stay out of the conversation related to government. Businesses and private corporations do, by that fact, have every right to take a position they want. They can support whoever they want. They can choose to fight for any candidate they want. They have every right to do so. That's what makes them different than, that's what makes this conversation different from keeping the political and the personal, is that businesses do have the right to say whatever they want. But the bottom line is that they shouldn't. The country only stands to lose from this, because every time a business takes this stance, they are simply going to ostracize half the country, and that is no way that the nation will come back together from its already divided self. From the government inserting itself to business, to from government inserting itself into people's lives to businesses inserting themselves into people's lives, there are few areas that are going to be left for people to just be their person, for people to just enjoy a cup of coffee, for people to just enjoy whatever they want to enjoy of the private sector. And the country is pulling a full-on 180 from its founding ideals of keeping this personal and this political separate from one another, and instead is seeking to ensure that every single part of life is infiltrated by the political. So what's important about this is that while it seems like it is a small benefit that businesses that you support what you support, and that those businesses might agree with you, while that seems like it can be a small scale issue, what's important is the grander scale issue than what you just see at that first glance. What's important is the fact that all personal aspects of life could soon be lost, and that represents the larger death of the personal and individual freedom. Putting aside the short-term benefits of getting companies to comply with these morally positive standards and recognize the long-term effect of politicizing every aspect of American life is important. No one wins when the personal and the political begin to occupy the same space. It's not about that these businesses are taking a wrong stand. It's not about the fact that they aren't advocating for what is morally correct. It's the fact that they should not be in the advocating sphere at all. These companies should stay out of the realm of politics and should focus on what benefits them. Americans really are a very proud people. They have really strong beliefs, they have really strong convictions, and they will hunker down into their sides. They will create businesses. If liberals take over all businesses, conservatives will create new ones. If conservatives take over all businesses, liberals will create new ones. Americans are ingenuitive, they are dedicated, they have strong beliefs, and the economy will find a way to provide the supply for the demand that exists, whether that be the demand on the left, whether that be the demand on the right. The problem is that people will find their sides and the economy might survive, but there is no chance a country will survive. A country with two fundamentally competing ideas of what an economy is for, of what businesses should do, of what we support, will never survive that kind of differences. So I wanted to put all that information out there. I think this is I'm giving my opinion now. I think this is a really negative trend for businesses to continue to be involved in politics in which they simply shouldn't be. There's just no room for companies to be having political opinions that ostracize half the country. There's simply no need for it, and I think that it only serves to further divide us. I don't think the country has a strong chance of survival. If every single company has a political opinion on every single issue, then conservatives will shop at the conservative coffee shop, the conservative clothing store, and the conservative grocery outlet, and liberals will shop at the liberal coffee shop, the liberal clothing store, and the liberal grocery outlet. And that is how society will function. And that is by no means the way that a society can survive with itself. So I am concerned that this will become an ever-growing trend and that it won't get better, but I have hope that maybe soon we'll realize that it's not about businesses having stances, it's about realizing that we are one nation and that maybe we should keep businesses we should keep our personal and political spaces separate. So that is what I have to say for this episode on that issue. Moving on to how I feel the Bible fits into this. I could not find a perfectly specific Bible passage to read for today. I was struggling a little bit. I was thinking about how I could fit something in, how I could make it work, how I could make it make sense. And eventually I decided I was going to do what I normally do when I cannot find a passage of the Bible to read or when I'm struggling, is I go to the words of Christ himself, not just of the Bible. So today I want to read from John chapter 15, and I'm going to start with verse 16. So I'm just going to read from my Bible here. It says, this is the word of Christ. He is talking to Peter in this section of John 15. So I'm just going to, he is not talking to Peter. He is talking to all of the disciples, and specifically he is talking to Judas, who says, who answers him in chapter 15, verse 16, saying, "You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you, that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. These things I command you, that you love one another. If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world, the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they kept my word, they will keep yours also. But all these things they will do to you for my name's sake, because they do not know him who sent me." This passage is something that I have been wrestling with lately. And I think it does, tangentially at least, apply to the situation because woke corporations or corporations giving in to woke mobs is about corporations trying to fit into the world. It is about trying to give in to people who are threatening you, who want something from you, who want you to look a certain way or act a certain way so you fit into their mold of what a corporation should do. And I want to send this out as an encouragement that you should not, of course, do things that are provocative for the sake of being provocative, but I want to encourage you in that if the world is against you, it is because you are not of it. If the world is looking like you are on the wrong side, it is because as a Christian, you are not supposed to be. Remember that what you're doing shouldn't be pleasing to the world. It's not about what they want or what they think is right. We're not trying to please the people of the world, the woke, the newest ideology, the latest trend. That's not what Christianity is. It is everlasting. Christ is who he is, and he died on the cross, and what you do should be pleasing to him and the Father alone. And that is the end of that question. It is not about what the world thinks of you. It's not about what is the right thing to do, what will get you the most business. It's about doing what is right and is pleasing in the eyes of the Lord. And I think that is so encouraging in a time like today when it feels like no matter what stance you take, you are on the wrong side. We're not supposed to be. No matter what stance you take, you will be on the wrong side as long as you are on the side of the Lord. And that is my short little passage for today. I'm sorry it wasn't a bit longer. I had a really hard time finding something, so I tried my best to squeeze a passage in there, and I really do love Christ reminding us that we are not of this world and there are so many more things to come. So if things ever get you down like that, just remember that there is a God up there who loves you so dearly. So thank you so much for watching this episode of That's Debatable with Jasmine Campos. Remember to keep your prayers big and your worries small. I'll see you next week.